Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back again to the channel known as Grimjack21502, to the show known as Project Cronus, to the players who salute you, for they may be about to die. No, never. We've already had one death, but that was in 1933. This is 1915, and things are heating. There's temperature involved. It's not really heating up, as it's cold, but we'll get to that in a second. But first, let's get around to all of these wonderful cast that we have around here, playing some wonderful characters that you should really get to know, fall in love with, so whenever I kill them, it makes it that much more painful for the viewing audience. But besides that, let's jump around. Let's jump to Finney first. Finney, how are you doing today, buddy?
Well, I think it's come to be expected. Terrified would be the best word to describe how I am feeling. As always, though, I mean, I thought for sure that Pete would work the social card to bring about peace and tranquility on this train ride, and then there was an open window, and so she flew.
That's right. And as Honest Pete Abraham proved last week as well, we'll get in our headline recaps that are coming up. He is quite the straight shooter, both on the ballot and off. So we'll see exactly which one of those talents Pete needs to rely on today. Pete also has 2 boons coming his way from a prior donation, so be on the lookout for that, everybody. Magic flask, magic gun. I'm running out of magic stuff. We'll see what we can do. Let's jump straight up to Summer. Summer, how are you doing today? And are you ready to have a nice, calm a negotiation, maybe a sit down, maybe hash out a few problems with Simon Meadham?
Yeah, I am. I'm doing great today. I just think it's going to be a really relaxed episode. We're just going to have a lot of good conversation, figure out, what's going on here, make some deals, get off the top of the train in a safe way where everybody turns out fine.
Yeah, all of that's probably not going to happen, but it's a nice dream, and I like the thought of it. Many props to you for the beautiful image this Saturday afternoon. Let's jump over to Kiana. Kiana, how are you doing today, and are you ready for the vision that Summer painted?
Am I ever ready for whatever happens in this show? No, not really. But that's part of the fun, right? Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm excited to jump back into whatever's happening. Maybe get some answers. Let's just play and find out.
Absolutely, because it's really all about that. It's really all about the journey, much like the train and the metaphor itself being the pleasant trip from one point of knowing to another point of knowing. No, it's just a big fight. Let's jump down to Barney. Don, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm awesome. Last couple of weeks, we had a real slugfest, like throwdown boss fight versus an eldritch monster. That was a lot of fun. And we got the train rolling again. So we have accomplished some things in 1915, which always feels good. I think this week, I'm looking forward to most adventures in babysitting and the continual screwing with the timeline that's happening. I just want to, there's a thing called the butterfly effect. Watch the movie. It'll tell you all about it. We're sending out a lot of butterflies right now ever since Aphrodite showed up.
Yeah, this is like a monarch migration at this point. I mean, it's throw it out the window. We're not sure exactly what happens tomorrow, let alone in 1933 of the year in which Aphrodite left. We'll see, though. We'll see. But first, before we go back, as we always say, we have to go back and find out what we're doing last week to know what we're going to do this week. So as we go back, the first thing I'll tell you is, just as I mentioned, Pete has 2 boons coming his way. Boons are gifted by you, the viewing audience. If you so desire, you can both help and you can hurt the Olympians, Lord Conti. So if you look down in the section right below me, you'll see the donations, should you wish to directly involve yourself in the time stream, which, as Don said, be your own butterfly. Come in and help us out in a way only true, as Keanu would say, time fuckery can. But before we go forward, we're going to go back, and we did it last week and I liked it and it was easy to put down, so we're going to do it again this week. These are the headlines of the various mythical fantasy newspapers that are going to report on the events that occurred last week on Project Cronus. May sees a naked banshee. Pete sees a naked banshee. The naked banshee is Aphrodite. The naked banshee is a goddamn dragon. The 4-armed tentacle monster becomes the 2-armed tentacle monster. Thanks, Barney. A shocking strike and flight for May. The alive tentacled Pac-Man becomes a dead tentacled Pac-Man. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Nice shooting, Mr. Mayor. Runny marble and corpses to the caboose. Choo-choo, all aboard the Express for Milan. This car closed for repairs. Aphrodite, spidey senses tingling, says I feel something malevolent. J. Jonah Jameson of the Daily Bugle, not happy. Riding atop the train, Aphrodite comes face to babyface with Simon Meadham. What took you so long, Granny? And that's where we pick up this episode of Project Cronus. So, as we drill back into this, and as we look around, to reset the scene appropriately, we are on the top of the Orient Express. The Orient is traveling rapidly through a wintry landscape towards the distant city of Milan. There is a car that was closed off from all passengers and crew, basically splitting the train in two. This was the site of the fire, a lot of violence, and to make sure that nobody experienced any type of ill effects from the compromised car, it was kept away from the general populace. So now, as Aphrodite reached out with her spidey senses, J. Jonah Jameson, furious, she was able to detect a malevolent force coming from the front portion of the train. They themselves were on the back portion of the train, broken by this segmented enclosed car. As is Aphrodite's want and desire, she opened a window, climbed out onto the roof of the moving Orient Express, and began to walk in the only manner available to her, the roof. And as the rest of the Olympians rushed up, Barney looking out the window as his hair and mustache and everything else blew as he was looking around trying to catch a glimpse of Aphrodite. Aphrodite was on the roof, and Aphrodite saw, seated in a crisscross applesauce facing back in her direction, a young boy who appears no older than 9 or 10, maybe 11, staring back at her. And as he flips his back, landing lightly on his feet, he says, "What took you so long?"
She continues to walk forward toward him. Were you expecting me?
For a while. He starts walking towards you.
Why?
'Cause you're not supposed to be here.
But I am.
Not for long. And let's cut back down into the bottom of the train, or the inside of the train, I should say. The bottom's a whole different place. Let's cut to the inside of the train as Barney, you can see just as this exchange is beginning and the two are walking towards one another on the car just in front of your own, the Orient kind of bears right a bit. And as it bears right, you kind of get that angled shot of the car in front as it takes the tracks a moment before your own. And you can see that there is a figure much smaller than Aphrodite walking towards her, Aphrodite closing the distance and walking forward. You guys have a few seconds to do something inside the train. What would you like it to be?
Barney pops his head back through the window and looks at Pete. Pete, oh, she's up there on the roof. I don't How did she? Doesn't matter. There's somebody else up there with her. You read science fiction, Pete?
I think
oh no,
Pete
Pete's
is,
frozen.
my God, the Eldritch have already, the monsters
My
have already
current
gotten.
library, no, sir.
Oh, there you go. There you're back. You froze out there for a second, Finney. Go ahead and give your response again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can't say I read too much into the science fiction. Mostly just newspapers and legal journals.
Well, I got a theory, but we don't have a lot of time. I don't think we can follow her up there, or at least not the way she went. Greg, have we noticed any ways up to the roof, like a ladder, that might be hanging from some of the carts as we're walking through the train, or anything like that?
Yes. In fact, you would have noticed that in between each of the cars, as you kind of open the door of one car, pass through kind of the moving and shifting walkway between cars, each car has a ladder leading up to the roof on what would be the rear of the car. So if you were to open the door leading forward in the car you're currently on, presumably there would be a ladder on the car that Aphrodite and Simon Meadham are standing on top of that would lead to the roof.
Pete, I don't know what's going on, but there's no reason to think that there's not more of those things like a meal here on the train with us. And someone is up there with Mimi right now. Are you up for a climb?
Me? I would probably assume that our good companion, Mr. Dietrich, may have more affinity for climbing than myself, given
I hope
the recent injuries that have been sustained, unfortunately.
All right. Well, yeah, I hope so. I hope he has an affinity for something, because so far I'm not even sure why he's a member of the team. I don't think we have a lot of time. I'm gonna go. If you wanna let Joe know, I'm gonna go out here. I'm gonna try to find a ladder up, and at least make sure she's okay. Because, I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but there's something going on with Mimi.
Well, the cold can do that to people, huh?
Sure, Pete. Yeah, it's the cold.
And I would turn to make my way towards May and Joe.
And Barney won't wait for Joe. He'll just go ahead and start looking for a ladder up.
Okay, and we're going to say without the need for a roll, May, that's what you hear is coupled with the kind of breeze that's escaping the compartment that May climbed up on. As soon as Barney kind of compromises the car by opening the sliding door between the two cars and creating like a secondary rush of wind into the car that you're in, that's when you know something's wrong, as somebody's just left the car and you're unaware of anybody needing to do that. You see Joe kind of stick his head out, and he probably catches the door sliding closed as Barney goes back out, and he stares at Pete. Pete, what's wrong?
Well, I don't have a lot of time, Joe, but as it turns out, Mimi is on the roof of the car in front of us, and Barney has commanded that you go with him in order to ensure the safety of our comrade, as it were.
Right. Well, he looks back at May and he goes, "Bonnie needs me. I'll be back." And he heads towards the front of the train.
Yeah. Okay.
A huge sigh of relief from Pete Abraham.
And let's get a reaction here from May before we jump back up onto the roof of this shit snowstorm, and we'll see what's going on then.
Yeah, she thinks about getting up, and then as soon as she tries to move, she's like, "Wait, nope, can't do that." Ow, that hurts. So she just kind of, you see her kind of like sit up, and then like realize I should see her sit back down. We should keep at least an eye out, an ear out. Are they going up outside when it's moving?
Yes, and according to Barney, there's an unfamiliar form up there as well. I can contest to nothing other than seeing Mimi leave.
Hey, I'd like to thank everybody for the raid from the RPG Lab. Thank you very much, everyone. Welcome aboard the Orient Express. We are rocketing towards Milan. Currently, we have one of the player characters playing a bit of an elder god on the roof, facing a demonic little hellion kid. The rest of the investigators are deciding whether or not they want to join said PC on the roof. And let's get back to the action. Thanks so much for joining us.
We should be, after what happened, we should be on the alert, I think.
I could not agree more, my lady. And I would take out the flask, have a sip, and offer it as some good old Pete Abraham first aid.
Does May accept?
She takes it, sniffs it, kind of wrinkles her nose again, and then takes a swig of it, trying to maintain a, yes, this is totally not gross at all, and then pass it back.
It takes about 2 minutes, May, but your ribs feel a little bit better. It's as if this concoction inside the flask of Honest Pete Abraham truly has medicinal purposes. So regain 1 hit point for me, as the medicine of Honest Pete Abraham is a bit of a boon, if you will, both inside and out.
Yay!
Let's cut back up to the roof as we have boy versus granny.
I take great offense to that. She stops moving and kind of tips her head and looks at him. What's your name?
Simon.
What a coincidence.
What shall we do here?
Unfortunately, you can't be allowed to survive.
Have you brought someone with you? Someone capable of killing me?
It's just me.
You must be getting senile in your old age. And you start to see a light growing from inside his mouth.
I am going to extend this violent hatred out from myself toward him, and I'm going to use all 8 points of magic.
Okie dokie, and that's opposed power?
Yep, he has to roll a power check.
And then it goes versus you, correct?
It's versus my my magic points, so he had to be an 80.
Okay. So he does not. What does that mean for Simon as this wave of hatred begins to descend upon him?
Well, since there's no ally here, he will turn his attack on himself.
Okay, so what you would see here, Barney, just as you kind of pull yourself up and as your hair is kind of whipping with the intense gale, You see these two figures standing, one of them having a mouth that is glowing some type of almost a profane light, something that tinges with red, speaking of fire and hellish incantation. And as this boy turns and begins to kind of shake and twist, you notice that the light is descending down into his throat, almost the same effect when you hold a very powerful light behind your hand and the webbing and skin of your fingers glows red as the light is powerful enough to at least pass through the membrane in such a way. And you begin to see that light creep through the neck. I'd like you to roll a spot hidden for me, Barney, as Joe Dietrich reaches the bottom of the ladder.
Regular success.
You see a green dot heading very fast towards the train, running at not a parallel, but it's at a perpendicular strike, and it seems to be heading directly at your car.
Where's it coming from? Is it like above us, or?
If you're facing the front of the train, the locomotive, it would be coming straight from the right and elevated like above the horizon, and it's descending toward you.
Not really knowing what's going on, still kind of gripping Knuckles White onto the top of that ladder, he'll call out to Mimi, look out, something's coming, and he'll point towards that green light and try to trace it, follow it along with his fingers, see if he can show her before it reaches the train.
You can roll a spot hidden as you are kind of breaking your concentration a bit to turn and look towards this UFO that's descending upon the express.
Okay. Fail.
Okay, so you're engaged. This is more of a power of will than you've had for quite some time, as Simon is definitely engaged to the point where it requires your concentration to keep him in the state that he is in. But that light continues to go down as if he's swallowing some type of his own energy. And as he's sitting, the boy begins to kind of shake, and where before he was sturdy and facing back, he drops to one knee and then the other knee in a pose of supplication as he's standing there kind of unaware. He's not grabbing at his throat, but it's like he's reaching for something that's in the air in front of him, but he can't grab purchase or find purchase in what you can see or what you cannot see. But what you could not see, and Barney did, was a streak of green that descends, and a second later, a figure slides between you and Simon Meadham, covered in scarves and a leather cap with goggles pulled down. And as the figure slides in front, a green jet of some type of energy disperses along the edge of a pack that seems to be a small, almost knapsack on this person's back. They are wearing a very long trench coat, and the person stands between you and Simon. And I'm going to give everybody a chance to react as the person turns back and looks towards Aphrodite. And in so looking at Aphrodite, the gaze goes back over Barney. And Joe, who's climbing up, kind of waiting for Barney to ascend, not sure of what's going on.
If they landed between myself and Simon, they would also be subjected to this, the hatred.
Okay. It does not affect them.
Cool.
And Simon seems to come out of it as soon as this figure lands.
Can we make out the face of the figure?
Not at all. The face is completely obscured behind very large, almost not reflective because it's night, but the glass keeps you from identifying anything from the nose up, and there is a scarf that seems to be not just a piece of material, but something that is attached to a leather cap that is on top of this person's head. But if you roll a spot hidden, I might be able to give you a little bit more.
Sure.
That's a hard from Dawn, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Dawn, you notice that as the figure turns around, there is one of the hands is very large. It's not misshapen, it's just much bigger than it needs to be. And you see that it's holding some type of rod in its right hand. And there is a crackle of, like a sputter of electricity that goes over the knuckles of the hand. And in the left hand, you see a very familiar glow as this blue-green flame seems to defy the wind that is blowing. And in the left hand, it goes out. And as it goes out, whatever had been done is now complete as Simon Meadham pulls himself up from behind this new arrival.
Barney will try to pull himself. He wants to kind of like pull himself up and roll over his shoulder to get flat on the surface of the top of the train. And start to get his rifle out.
Yeah, Joe climbs up and he's pulling himself up behind you. As soon as he kind of looks up, his hair blowing, he's wide-eyed and he starts pulling himself up into the area beside you, but he's in movement as you pull out your rifle. Meadham is scrambling a bit. We'll give Aphrodite a chance to do something as the new arrival hasn't turned to address Meadham, but continues to look at you, but you believe that the gaze is actually, it's almost as if it's looking beyond you. And though you haven't turned around to recognize them, the yell did come from that direction. You believe they're looking back towards Barney or whoever else has arrived.
Oh, she's angry. She takes a step forward and has her hands clenched in fists at her side. You're in my way.
I can't let you kill him. Not yet.
I have to.
Not yet.
What am I waiting on?
The right time. And the figure reaches up and unclips the kind of sealed scarf and pulls it down, revealing the darker skin of an African American woman. And as the goggles go up onto the head, you see the hairline of brilliant white as the woman that is in front of you seems to be at least mid-70s, probably 74 to 77.
Then what am I supposed to do? What am I doing here?
You're saving Pete.
This is how. This has to be how.
He has to live. And the wind is whipping, and Simon is now, you see him pull away, the smile return to his face as he looks around this new arrival at Aphrodite. And he seems as confused by the arrival as everyone else. And as this woman looks, she looks past Aphrodite for a second. And Barney, you see her look directly into your eyes. So young. So young.
Barney's, at this point, he's flat on his stomach. He's got his rifle out and he's starting to try to level it, waiting for the train to turn at such a point that he can get a bead on one of these two other figures. And he kind of mutters beneath his breath, but Joseph would probably hear, "I knew it. Goddamn aliens. I knew it." And he's waiting for a chance. Aliens. What do you think that thing was back there in the snow?
Aliens means like spacemen from outer space?
But you read science fiction, you read H.G. Well, not now, Joe. Get ready.
He pulls his gun out. He's lying in the snow beside you. Who do we shoot?
I don't know. Whichever one tries to hurt Mimi.
Okay. All right. Whatever you say, I'll shoot that way. And he has his kind of that brass and copper gun that he has out.
Barney catches the old woman's in aviator goggles eyes. She seems to know him.
You can roll
Does
a
he recognize
psychology.
her?
You can roll a
Okay.
psychology check if you like.
No. Nah, she looks like an alien to him. Goddamn alien, I knew it.
I mean, to put it into perspective, she's not doing anything that's inhuman, but other than, of course, the flight that she just
That's the
exhibited.
main thing, the green dot. All right. Yeah, he'll just wait and kind of take his cue off of Mimi. He's watching her very closely.
If I can't kill him, then give him to me.
I can't. He has to do something. Something terrible.
What?
It's the only way to win.
Tell me what?
You won't. I can't.
You have to.
No, I don't, Mimi.
Fine. Fine. And she starts taking a few steps back.
As you do so, you see the point of something very sharp and very blue punch through the lower stomach of the woman that you were just talking to. And as she turns and looks, you see Simon with what looks like an edge of energy, and it's being produced from both his left forefinger and middle finger as he is driven it into from his trajectory up where the kidneys would be, punching out just below the sternum. And as he stands and as the woman kind of shakes and begins to turn, revealing her age more in these movements than in the stronger voice that you had just heard, as you can see that even without this wound, her knees would have been very weak, that while 70 is not old by any stretch of the imagination in 2018, in 1915 it is quite accelerated. And as she drops kind of down to her knees in a way that Simon was previously, Simon looks back up at Aphrodite and says, I never was one to say thank you. Care to try again? And you see the woman as she's reaching for something, but as she reaches for this edge, her fingers pass through it.
She lunges forward to try and separate them, like kind of moving past this woman to push him back.
As you move, you see the woman that has been run through feebly throw the stick that is in her right hand, and it zips in an electrical shot, rocketing past your head. Whether she meant to miss or not, you're unsure, as she's standing there shaking. No, this is what he wants. And the blood is staining her white teeth, and it's running down now into the wrap that she previously had around her mouth.
I can't watch this. I have to do something.
She starts to cough, and she looks back. At this point, that exchange has gone through. We're not in combat rounds per se, but I want to know if Barney needs anything to do, and then we're jumping back down in the train.
Barney shoots the boy.
Okay, roll an attack.
He's seen, he saw that Mimi was stepping back, that this new figure wasn't engaged. He saw the boy run her through, and that she's still, violently shaking. I'll use 3 luck to make that a success.
Okay, and as you shoot, we will see... Boop, 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 boop. You see, as the shot comes through and it's ready to strike exactly where the boy was, he slips for a second, and in the slip, you see that blue edge of energy disappear from the woman, and you realize that a lot of her remaining lift or carriage or posture was based on the inclusion of that edge in her body, and she slumps further on the train, and he appears about 2 feet to the left, dangerously close to the side of the train, but he quickly kind of steps another step back to the right, and he looks and says, "Well, I see you did bring somebody. You did bring some help here, huh?" And we're going to go down into the train before we begin a combat round. We're going to say that at this moment, without the need for a listen roll, you guys hear a rifle shot.
Pete would look to May, probably with a lot of caution and fear, as is Pete's way, and just kind of that confused, what do we do look.
It sounds like trouble.
Yes, it does.
Another one of those things on the train.
Oh. Are you okay here?
I can just help me get closer to at least the door.
Absolutely. Pete would, the help action or whatever would be needed.
Yeah, you can definitely get her over to the door.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of gestures towards the door to the actual outside of the car. I don't know if I can climb up, but stick around here and listen, and at least we'll be closer when they need us.
I will be your eyes, madam. And we'll, I guess, make our way outside in between the cars.
Yeah, you would be able to see whenever you guys kind of open, as soon as you open it up and the air kind of hits the two of you, kind of prompting a little bit of a revival from May as far as, focusing a bit. As you look up, you could see the shoes of Joseph Dietrich hanging over the side, as it appears that he's on the ground, stomach down. It doesn't look like he's wounded because you see the feet kind of maneuvering as if he's more on the ground or on the roof of the car for cover, as indicated by the way that he's lying. You'd have to climb up, though, Pete, to see anything more.
Oh, boy. With great hesitation, I would begin going up the ladder very slowly.
With great hesitation comes great responsibility, and somewhere J. Jonah Jameson shakes his fist. Okay, so as you're climbing up, you get there just in time to witness the beginning of what's going to be sequential actions, otherwise known as potentially combat. As the shot has gone out, Simon Meadham has moved, the corporate ladder, right, Roller? Simon Meadham has moved out of the way. He has addressed everybody involved. We are going to make dex rolls here, kids, to see who can go forth the old-fashioned way, as Simon is a bit of a person of interest. He gets a 47. Please let me know if you beat him.
13 over here.
Nice.
That would put me at a 94.
48 from Barney.
Okay. Look at Joe go!
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Aphrodite, Joe, Simon, Barney, and Pete. Aphrodite,
Always
what would you
preferred
like?
closing remarks.
It's the only way to win, right? Go ahead and Aphrodite, what would you like to do? As Simon kind of stops on the edge, turns around, addresses your little army that you have, and you see again this glow rise up in his throat.
She would move forward to stabilize the woman, but simultaneously she yells back at Pete, "Get down! I don't want to lose anyone else."
Okay, so this is back towards Pete as he's coming up over the edge.
Yeah, this is at all of them that are coming up over the edge here.
Okay, so you all hear that? Is that the end of your action as Aphrodite, you get to the edge? Roll me a first aid check as you get to the woman to see if there's anything you can do to stabilize her.
Yeah. I'll crit it.
Okay. You get there and you're able to crit it, and